Grand Solar Flash Update for September 3rd, 2024. I have realized that I have the power to destroy this reality. What would you do if you had ultimate power? In order to find that out, my suggestion is to question your reality and then change it. 5D is coming for Earth, and nothing can stop it. I encourage you to and invite you to come to the live guided interdimensional meditations, which we do every Wednesday and Saturday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If you can't make the live meditation, it will be uploaded and you can access it via the live folder or whatever it is on my YouTube channel. All right, so today we're going to be talking about my realization and my experience that I have the power to destroy this reality. So, as you know, if you haven't, if you want to know all of the history behind how I got where I am, you can go to michaelwilliamdenney.com. Denny is spelled D-E-N-N-E-Y. And you can get my books, especially the first one, Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth, where I explain to you exactly what happened to me and what started me on this experience. So I've had some recent communications, as recent as yesterday, from my higher dimensional friends, the light beings, and I had an experience later that day which confirmed it, and once again, the sparks are coming out of my ears. So I'm going to share that with you because being transparent about this and talking about this actually helps me to accept it and to expand into it without becoming reactionary or attached to it. So that's one of the reasons I do it. By the way, these experiences I'm having are not necessarily unique to me. I mean, they're unique that the specifics are unique to me, but the grandiosity and the fantastical nature of it is something you absolutely can experience if you choose to. And the fastest way to do that is to do the interdimensional meditation. If you want to be able to give your nervous system and your energy system the ability to handle the energies that you will experience, then of course go to thunderwizard.com, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, go to the shop at thunderwizard.com, click on the shop button, and if you want to just, for instance, you haven't experienced this and you want to try it, get the Summoning the Immortals or Awakening the Immortals Qigong, any of the Mao Shan practices. And the 90-day challenge is designed to give your body that ability. So anyway, I've made that available to you specifically for that reason. So I realized I have the power to destroy this reality. So what I didn't share in the book, which I've just only recently shared, well, I did share this part in the book. When the light beings showed up, or this specifically, what showed up was a mantis being in a higher dimension. He is an extraterrestrial space traveler. He showed up in his ruby red sphere spaceship one day, and then he proceeded to teach me the Huar mantra, which you're hearing in the background right now. He taught me that. Anyway, one of the first things he told me, which we'll talk about, is that you are a probability. We'll talk about that. And he also told me that I was Shiva. And I responded in a very understandable three-dimensional way. I said, yes, we are all Shiva. And he kept repeating that. You are Shiva. Not like, yeah, you're right, it's all a cool symbolic thing and everybody is... He wasn't saying that that was wrong. He was just repeating it like, I'm being literal. You are Shiva. He said I was a bunch of other things. Including he told me that I was king of earth and that I was going to become king of earth. I've talked about that a little bit. I won't take the time to talk about that. What I want to talk about today is him telling me that I was Shiva. Later on, after doing the first live interdimensional meditation to the sun to bring the solar flash event, which was, one of the first things I did, in June of 2022, after this experience, because I just thought, I won't get into all the history of that. You already know. I heard about there was going to be a solar flash event. Everything was going to change. And I said, why don't we go and do that? And so I took everybody out in meditation up to the sun, and we sent energy to earth. And I don't remember if we chanted a mantra. We might have chanted the Hua breath. I don't remember. I didn't think anything of it. I just did it just for the heck of doing it. I liked the idea of bringing the solar flash event, because one of the things that this being said to me was, when I asked, when is the solar flash event going to come? And the being said, when you decide. So I said, okay, I've decided I want it to come. So I went and did the meditation. And as soon as I finished with that, the light beings showed up, thousands of them. And they were absolutely beside themselves with gratitude. Like, they wouldn't stop thanking me. And they were sending so much bliss and so much joy into my body. They were like, thank you so much. You have no idea what you've accomplished here. It turns out that when we did that, there was a massive solar event that happened right after that. And the beings were saying, you did that. You made that happen. And I went, oh, okay. Now that experience did something to me, and my body started coming apart. All of this stuff, my brain was breaking, and emotionally and psychologically I was having a real serious event, and I felt like I was losing my grip on my sanity. I was losing my grip on my sanity, and my body started experiencing a lot of intense physical pain as a result of that. So getting back to, so after that, I had a visitation, a light being showed up. In fact, I have the video. I made a video for myself. Maybe one of these days I'll upload it. I mean, I'm sitting there, with my little nose, thing so that I can breathe. And I'm like in my pajamas, and I make a video where I say, I just had some beings show up, and I wanted to put it on video, what I was told, because it was so unbelievable. And so what the first being showed up was a beautiful feminine being, and she said, very, very coyly, she said, you're gonna get an upgrade. And I'm like still like this 3D human. I have no idea what's happening. She says, say thank you. So I went, thank you. And she left, and I don't know how long, it felt like maybe a minute or two later, this other being showed up. And this being was so powerful, so unbelievably powerful. And I had the distinct impression that this was a being from a much higher dimension, like the 9th dimension or something like that. And the power, the energy in the room was palpable. In fact, anyway, I could get into some of the physical things that was happening to me, but I won't take up the time with that. In any case, that being showed up, and that being said very matter-of-factly, because like every word, and again, this is all happening telepathically, but every word wasn't just telepathic meaning. Every word had behind it an entire universe of energy. So it wasn't just that this being was communicating words. The power that was coming with it was absolutely, it was destroying me. It was so powerful. And so the being was very direct and very straightforward, and the being said, "You have been given the title of Supreme Ruler of this universe." And that hit, it was, I'm in my 3D mind, my brain couldn't comprehend. I mean, the words were coming to me, but whatever was behind it was so much bigger than the words. My brain, was flipping out, trying to put into words the energy that was coming. But that was the best that my brain could do. You have been given the title of Supreme Ruler of this universe. I didn't talk about that to anybody for 2 years. I didn't even talk about becoming King of Earth for 2 years. That, makes sense. Now that I realize, well, it's easier to accept, I should say. Now that I've been doing this for a while and I realize, I've now communicated with so many beings in so many dimensions, in so many universes. And even in this universe, I've interacted with so many beings that are councils of, entire, sections of the universe. I've communicated with beings that are in control of planets, in control of galaxies, and so, and to understand that there's an infinite number of planets and civilizations, and, so one person being King of Earth is not a big deal. There's infinite number of, it's like saying I was mayor of, Phoenix. Well, okay, big deal. You know how many cities there are in the United States alone, and every city has a mayor? Big deal. So the idea now of being King of Earth isn't that big. Somebody has to do it. And, might as well be an earthling. So I can accept that. I'm trying to say I can accept that concept a lot more easily, especially when we talk about going into, the new 5D Earth that is coming. The idea of being supreme ruler of this universe, that's not the easiest thing to accept. In any case, that was given to me as a direct result of me just deciding to go do that live meditation. Whatever it was about that made the light being so grateful went up the chain of command, because that being, whoever he was some extremely powerful being and some extremely powerful council of higher dimensional beings that's looking over a bunch of different, universes, and so they got the information got back to this being and said, "Oh, we'll make him supreme ruler of the universe." Now, what the hell does that mean? I talked about that. I mean, if I try and go do something about that, if I, go walk into the White House and say, "I'm supreme ruler of the universe, I'm going to take over the White House," they're going to lock me up. I mean, I still have to sleep every day. I still have to do all the, I've got a cut on my toe. I still have all, so that title hasn't given me anything special as long as I'm interacting in the third dimensional illusion. It's given me, it hasn't given me any more power than I already had to manipulate the illusion, which we talk about in my book, the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. That's really what I'm talking about, how to play around with the virtual reality program so that you can, get the best game experience out of it. So anyway, I'm leading up to where we're going here, and I do have a list which hopefully we'll get to. I've got a whole list here. By the way, I'm gonna put a link in the description to a video from a physicist, a mathematician physicist, who has proven what I'm telling you mathematically. This has been very helpful for my consciousness because, as I've been saying, physics is proving this, that what light beings were telling me and what I've been experiencing, physicists can prove it mathematically, that what I'm saying is accurate. We'll get into that. But there's a link for one of these videos, and if you want to go really deep, this guy has like 4-hour-long videos where you can listen to him go into the science and the mathematics of all of it. I'm not a mathematician, so I get bored with that, but maybe it'll be helpful to you. You check in the description. So let's just get into the list here. So you are a probability. I've talked about that. I'll go over it very briefly, but this was the first communication that started breaking my brain. Lying in that couch right there watching television, middle of the afternoon. This guy shows up, my friend, and of course he's phased out of 3D space-time, so I can't see him, but I can feel him. I'm getting the energy from him is incredibly strong. It's higher dimensional energy, and I'm getting these telepathic messages with these waves of energy that's hitting me. And he says, first he tells me that you're king of Earth. We talked about that for a couple of seconds, and then he said you're Shiva, and we argued about that for a little bit, and then he said, and I can't remember if this was one conversation or multiple conversations, but it's in my head. It's all one in one folder. And then he said, you are a probability. And he kept repeating that. I talk about that in my book. But I responded to that the same way I did to his revelation that I was Shiva. I said, yeah, everybody's Shiva. And he said, you are Shiva. You are the god Shiva. And he said, and then he said, the other stuff that he said about being king of Earth, and then he said, you are a probability. And I said, yes, of course, yes, everything is possible, and he kept repeating insistently, you are a probability. I've talked about that, but what that means is that, quantum physics says that when you get down to the quantum field, when you get down to, small aspects of our material existence, nothing exists, and the whole, is light a particle or a wave? When you get down to it, light is neither a particle or a wave, and both a particle and a wave. And depending on how you view it, light can go back in time and change the proof, the evidence that it's always been whatever it is that you decide. So the link to this physicist, this guy talks about how reality is an illusion, that 3D space-time. He doesn't use the word 3D. I'm using the word 3D because it's important. He says space-time is an illusion. Space-time is nothing more than your experience inside a virtual reality headset. That's all it is. It's just a representation. And you, like a virtual reality video game, if you know anything about video games, when you're playing the video game, the only thing that is rendered is what you experience. So, you're driving your car down some street, the buildings that you're passing by, the people that you interact with, all of those things are rendered by the computer, by the software, so that you experience it. So the entire universe of the game is not rendered all at once. It's only what you visually and physically experience is rendered. That's true about video games. So this guy's saying that's exactly how it works here. 3D space-time is rendered. Like whatever is beyond your experience. I mean, I can look out my window and I can see, whatever, a quarter of a mile or something like that. That every time I look at that, it is rendered for me. The moment that I stop looking at it, it's the RAM isn't going to render it. Now there's plenty of other people out there who are experiencing it. There are other players in the game, so it's being rendered for them. Two of us come together, it'll be rendered for both of us. Do you get it? So that's part of what this being was saying. You are a probability, meaning that you manifest yourself, your identity, your history, your identity of who you are, and the physical world around you is rendered, it is manifested based on infinite probabilities. I didn't say possibilities, probabilities, because we get into that. So you're more likely to keep creating the same experience over and over again based on your identity, your internal dialogue, your emotions, your desires, your intentions. All of those things go into the input of creating the reality. So what that means is that the most likely probability is going to continue to be manifested. There's a possibility that you can create a very improbable reality, but that means that you have to take all of your internal, your history of yourself, your intention, your desire, your emotions, your beliefs, all of that. You have to focus all of that to create a different reality. That probability exists in the quantum field. It's ready to be rendered. If you can give enough RAM in this internal computer towards that, it'll manifest. And this is, again, I'm putting it into my words, but again, I'm finding that there are physicists, theoretical physicists, mathematicians who are saying this is exactly how the world works. The difference between me and them is they're coming to that conclusion through mathematics. I came to that conclusion as a result of personal experience and communicating with beings in higher dimensions. But we're coming to the same conclusion. Anyway, so the being tells me I'm king of Earth, I'm going to be king of 5D Earth, and that the solar flash will come when I decide. I'm Shiva, the destroyer, and I've been given the so crazy. I've been given the title of supreme ruler of this universe because I was willing to go out there, and for no other reason, because I wanted to be helpful. I tried to start the solar flash, and they thought that was amazing, and now you're ruler of the universe because you did that. All right, so there's the lead up to all of that. And so anyway, a lot of crazy stuff has been going on. So yesterday I'm doing my meditations, and I speak with the sun goddess, who is now also my deceased mother has fused with that. That's a whole other story in and of itself. And she tells me that you're going to, first, this was a couple days ago, you're going to have an experience that's going to be very intense. You're going to have an experience that's only that is located just within you, and it's going to be a very powerful Mandela effect type of experience, but it's only you're going to be the one that perceives it. Okay, and as always, if you don't know what to do with that, I didn't know what to do with that either. So I've learned to just, log it in there and just be prepared, to just be ready. Okay, I'm just going to be ready. I don't know what the hell that means, but I got enough information to maybe keep my eyes open. So then yesterday, the sun goddess, my mother, says, you're going to be tested. I don't like those kinds of messages. You're going to be attacked. That was one that has since come and gone, and now I understand in hindsight what it means. I've talked about that. You're going to be tested, and I go, I don't want to be tested. I don't want to be attacked. Just tell me good stuff. I don't want to hear that, But I couldn't shake that. She said, you're going to be tested. and how you respond to the test is gonna, I don't know, it's gonna mean something. I didn't really catch what. By then I was like, I don't want to hear that. But, you can't forget that. And I've found through experience that the things I don't want to hear are usually the things that turn out to be true. So yesterday, I am watching a YouTube. I'm watching it on my TV, my big screen TV here in this house I'm renting, and I'm watching a YouTube video, and they're talking about the economy or something like that, and I'm starting to get bored. And the guy who's the guest, apparently some genius in, I don't know, an economist, Bitcoin, whatever. And I'm trying to listen to what he has to say. It's all over my head. And the thing that's bothering me is that they're talking about an arbitrary, thing. Whenever somebody starts saying, we need to start going to the gold standard, I go, the only reason, gold doesn't have any more value than dollar bills or Bitcoin. If I stop, I can't, if I go out in the middle of the forest and you just drop a pile of gold bricks in front of me and leave me out there, isolated, for hundreds of miles, I'm not going to survive. Gold isn't going to give me clothing. It's not going to give me heat. It's not going to give me food. It's not going to give me protection or shelter. It's worthless to me. It's only valuable if I walk up to another person that has a resource that I want and is willing to take gold in exchange for food, clothing, shelter, energy, transportation. If that person doesn't take gold as payment, then it's worthless to me. So I'm listening to this guy, and that's bugging the crap out of me. And on top of that, guy looks fairly young, and he's got his hair in a man bun. His hair's probably about this long. It's not that long, but he's got it pulled into a man bun behind his head. And so whenever you see it from the side, you see that man bun. And I'm going through my old guy stuff about how stupid that looks. And back in my day, if you wore your hair like that, you'd get your ass kicked. I'm doing that thing that my dad used to say about my long hair that was down to my ass when I was in high school. And I get this very strong desire for him. In fact, I start thinking to myself, how would I like him to have his hair? Why doesn't he just cut his hair so he can just comb it back and it'll look like he's trying to make it look now? And I had this pretty strong feeling about that. I mean, that's how I was just lost in my human craziness. And I really wanted him to cut his hair so that he could just have a normal hairdo and I wouldn't be distracted by his stupid, pompous, self-reflective, ridiculous-looking man bun, the self-insistent man bun that, his insecurity of wanting to look good. Forgive me for those of you who wear man buns. Don't take it personally. I'm an old guy. That's what we do. When you get to be my age, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I have that experience, and then I find myself, I start to fast forward because it's like a 4-hour long video, and I wanted him to get to something else. So I fast forward, like 10 or 20 minutes through, and I have this conscious desire of, I want him to cut his hair. I want to stop this and see that his hair is cut. So sure enough, I fast forward in the video, I stop, and I kid you not, he cut his hair exactly the way I imagined it. And I went, okay, this is weird. I don't like that. And then I remembered what I was told, you're going to have a Mandela effect and you're going to be tested because you're going to have power to change reality or something like that. And I went, I don't like this. I'm not comfortable with this. This isn't really happening. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to fast forward, and it's not fair of me to tell this guy how to do his hair. He should have a stupid man bun if that makes him happy. Just like my dad telling me to cut my hair when I had hair down to my ass and I was wearing in a ponytail. Everybody should have the right to be whoever they are. And if I have this power, I don't, So then as a joke to myself, I said, I'm going to fast forward another 10 minutes and his man bun will be back. That's exactly what happened. I fast forwarded 10 minutes, stopped, and his man bun was back. I went, okay, so, and then when that happened, of course, there's all kinds of explanations that are popping in my head. When that happened, I get hit with this huge amount of energy, and the light beings are like, see, we told you, you have this power. You can change reality. And then I was brought back to this mathematician who was explaining that reality, your reality is rendered just like a video game, but it's your intention. Now, this is what the light beings say. The mathematician doesn't say that. He's just talking about how it works. He doesn't start getting into intention and all of that other stuff. He's trying to figure that out. The light beings are saying you're a probability. What you choose, what you focus on, is what is rendered in this reality. And so I'm having this crisis because now I made this guy cut his hair, and I gave him the power to change his hair back, and so the obvious answer is that this very long video, the guy who made the video had 2 interviews with some guy at 2 separate times, and he cut the video and interspliced it based on subject matter, right? That's obviously what happened. Because I went back and I said, I want to make sure that I'm not seeing things. So I went back and yep, in the beginning of the video, he's wearing a certain shirt and he's got a man bun. And then I fast forwarded it, and then sure enough, he's wearing a different shirt and his hair is cut. I fast forward again, he's back wearing the other shirt he was wearing before, and he's got a man bun. So it's obviously, that's what happened. Obviously, I didn't do that. I didn't change reality. I'm watching something, and it just coincidentally happens that I have this ability. Excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. It just coincidentally happens that this was spliced in such a way that it coincidentally lined up with my personal, old man issues about how men should wear their hair, right? But I couldn't escape it because the light beings kept on telling me, are you going to believe it or not? That's the test. The test is, are you going to believe that you have the power to change this 3rd dimensional virtual reality game? Because if you believe it, if you take the risk and choose to believe it and accept all of the responsibility associated with that, then guess what? You'll be able to repeat that. Now, again, I didn't like having that kind of responsibility. I didn't like the idea of feeling I was going crazy. But when you go back to the experiment with light, now what I just described, me watching a video, changing some guy's hairstyle, first because it was bothering me and I wanted him to change it, and then second, I felt guilty and wanted to change it back so that I didn't have too much control over somebody, and it changed. And then of course the obvious reality that it's been 2 separate interviews that's been spliced together based on subject matter, and according to the 3rd dimensional physical objective reality and the history of it, you had nothing to do with it. Just your thoughts happened to coincide with what already happened. Except for we go back to physics, science, and we go back to the experiment about light. If you don't know it, go look it up. The most recent experiment that has been done about is light a particle or a wave conclusively proved, not showed evidence, but proved that light behaves as a wave until somebody looks at it and tries to measure if it is a particle. And the moment that you do that, that you watch it, record it, and have the intention to see if it's a particle, it becomes a particle. Now, the thing that was proven is that not only does light change from a wave to a particle, which is physically impossible according to Newtonian physics, not only does light do that, but the moment that it is observed and there is an intention put on it, light then goes back in time to the very beginning of the universe and changes itself to a particle so that it can say to you, look, I've been a particle forever. And here is the physical proof showing, going back all the way to the beginning of the Big Bang, I've always been a particle. But yet you also were there and you saw, and you have proof that it was a wave. You have the proof that it was a wave. So light chose to change itself from a wave to a particle, and it went back in time, created a Mandela effect, and changed it so that there was proof. Now, take that back to my experience. The fact that I'm certain, I don't know this, but I'm certain if I contact the guy and he wants to answer my question and I say, did you make 2 separate interviews at 2 separate times and then splice 2 different parts of it so that it would be about subject matter? And he says, yes, that's exactly what happened. Here are the dates. That doesn't mean that I didn't change that. Doesn't mean that. Because I was looking at light. As it so happens, I'm watching a video on my television screen. I'm looking at light waves. So, if in fact I did change that guy's hairstyle twice, the way that physics says, if you did that, it would also be shown in the history, the provable history that it changed and it was a rational explanation. This is why you don't understand when your reality changes. You don't understand, you don't know how many times you've changed your reality. You don't know. You can't know. Because let's say you were born 6 foot tall Asian woman. You were born a 6 foot tall Asian woman, and then at some point in your physical reality, you had such a strong desire and intention to be a 5 foot Caucasian male that you changed your reality. Well, what's going to change is also your identity, your perception of yourself, and all of your memories going back to your birth, and it will be physically provable. In other words, you can go back and you can see that you were born X amount of years ago as a Caucasian male, and here's your high school prom picture, and here you are graduating college, and you will have proof of all of that. It doesn't mean that's who you were. All right, so so in other words, that's the mind, forgive my French, that's the mind fuck that's going on with me. Beings tell me this. I have this coincidental experience where I changed this guy's hairstyle, on the video twice, and then the beings say, now the test is, do you want to believe that you did that, or do you want to accept the third dimensional reality, provable reality that you didn't do that? Because if you can believe it, that means you can keep doing it. If you choose not to believe it, you'll keep yourself trapped. So there's the test. Can you let go of your ego enough? The other part of the test was that once I became aware that I changed his hairstyle the first time, And it went from that ridiculous looking man bun to an actual, he cut his hair so that he could comb his hair that way. Once I realized that was selfish of me, and I didn't want to take away his freedom of choice to do what he wants, and then his hairstyle changed back, that was also the test. The test is, if you have that kind of power, are you going to be selfish about it? And I realized I did what I want more than anything. One of the reasons why, if you want to know why I've been chosen to be King of Earth and Supreme Ruler of this universe, if you want to know why that's been given to me, it's because when I didn't know anybody was looking, and I didn't know that any of this was real, I was making choices, like the first time that I did the live meditation to go to the sun and do the solar flash, which I didn't, it was just a fun, interesting thing for me. My motivation was because I care. And I care for the earth, and I care for human beings, and I care for consciousness, and I'd like for people to be happy. And that was my only motivation. I wasn't doing it to even have an experience or to look good or anything. I was just doing it for fun and because I wanted to be helpful. That was it. So that was the reason that I was given that, because I wanted to go and apparently had the ability to begin and bring the solar flash event, but I was doing it for the right reasons. I'll take you back to another experience. When I first learned the spirit fighting, so those of you who are doing the 5-element spirit fighting practices, I have to say this is probably the most powerful energy practice on the planet. And this is one of the reasons that I have the abilities that I have to go into meditation, chant the Hua breath, and destroy negativity. It's because of that. So when I first learned it, I came home and I did the first posture that I was given, which, by the way, looks a lot like a mantis posture. I did the first posture that I was given. I was filled, huge amounts of energy went through me. I now, in hindsight, I realize it was higher dimensional energy, very blissful and powerful. And at that same moment, I felt a being on the left side of me, and a telepathic picture came in my brain of a nuclear bomb going off. And then the message came, this is extremely powerful. You have been chosen to learn this. Don't abuse it. If you abuse this power, it will be taken away from you. And then being was gone and the energy was gone. I didn't know what the heck that meant. Well, I now know what that means. It means that, again, time isn't linear. So I believe that whenever this being came and said, you are supreme ruler of the universe, what ended up happening is that being intended a reality onto me. And then what had to happen is, since time isn't linear, the future changed as well as my past. And everything, including that experience of a being coming up next to me when I do a posture, seeing a nuclear bomb and feeling all this energy and being told you've been chosen to learn this, that very well might have happened that moment that being spoke that intention on me. Because my past, just like a light wave, has to go back and has to align itself so that it will justify and prove the experience of whatever your intention is. In that case, that being was putting their intention onto me. I was accepting it, of course. I had the power to reject it. Didn't mean that I didn't struggle with it, which is why it was extremely powerful and I felt like I was coming apart. But I accepted it. All right, so here's the second part of this. And when this happened, it really started messing with me. So this third dimensional reality is being deleted because we're heading into 5D. This is why everything is coming apart. This is why the political structure is imploding on itself. This is why people are becoming aware and waking up to the lies of the elite 3D narrative. This is why people are, this is why physicists are coming to the impossible conclusion that we live in a 3D virtual reality headset. All of these things are happening because this reality is being deleted. It's being destroyed. So that means pieces of it are being destroyed every day. As we are continuing to get hit with this higher dimensional solar energy, the 3D virtual reality game is losing memory. Pieces of the game are falling apart. So there's a very strange thing happening in California, where I grew up. First, I'll get to the one that's more understandable. So as a young adult, I lived in West Los Angeles, and I had a theater company in Hollywood, but I lived in West Los Angeles. So I spent a lot of time in Santa Monica, 3rd Street Promenade, if you know where that is. In fact, I used to perform drums there with my drum teacher in any place. So that was a big part of my reality. And I just recently watched a video of a guy who was saying, what the hell is happening to California? What the hell is happening to Santa Monica? And he was walking through 3rd Street Promenade, and the place is completely falling apart. There's like 40% vacancies, which is unheard of. All of the stores and restaurants are closing down and shutting down. The place has become very violent, where there's meth addicts and drug addicts, and there's violence is increasing. In Los Angeles and in Santa Monica. Santa Monica didn't used to be a dangerous place 30 years ago. So I'm watching that, and I got this really strange feeling like, oh my God, this is like watching again, video game destroying itself. And I couldn't help but notice that used to be my hood. That's where I used to hang out, and it's falling apart. Well, my actual neighborhood, I grew up in Palos Verdes Peninsula, and if you're watching any of the news, Portuguese Bend and Rancho Palos Verdes is falling into the ocean. Now this has been happening for a long time, but it's now happening where something like 2 feet per week, and huge amounts of the houses have been condemned. The electricity, the electricity, the gas, and the sanitation have all been shut off, and people are either having to leave, like people are becoming homeless. But it's literally the physical ground is coming apart, and it's like sinking into the ground. Hundreds of homes, and I'm watching this in the same day. I'm watching my, where I lived, where I grew up, and where I spent my adulthood is being deleted, and I couldn't help this feeling. My past is being deleted. And as I had that experience, now, and the other thing is I had a really horrible childhood, and I hated living in Palos Verdes. It was horrible. You wouldn't think, you didn't live in South Central. I mean, it was a horrible experience. I mean, I lived, even though my dad, was a successful physicist, We lived in this house that looked good on the outside, but the inside was falling apart. There was only one working bathroom. There was only one working shower. The place had cracks in it. My mom had started to do some remodeling, like crashing through walls and all of that. And then halfway through, my dad decided that he didn't want to pay for it, and they never fixed it. So here I am living in this rich neighborhood, but I've got this alcoholic father and this codependent mother and this abusive brother who was physically and emotionally abusive to me. And I lived in like this house that didn't function. It was like I was living somewhere like they are now, where, things are falling apart. There's holes. I mean, there was holes in walls. And, it was just crazy. My childhood was absolutely crazy. And I was also bullied by all of the neighborhood kids. For what reason, I don't know. And I was the shortest kid in school and all of that. So I hated my childhood. So I won't lie to you, when I saw that, that place is falling apart, there was a part of me that really enjoyed that. Now, of course, I'm working to not think that, but I can't help but feel like I'm destroying my childhood home, and my past is coming apart. It is being deleted. Now, all of this is coincidental. All of it can be explained. But the lesson is, if you remember at the end of our last meditation, the live meditation, I didn't end it. Because normally we end the meditation, we leave if we're in 5D, we leave 5D, we come back, we go back down to earth, we come back to our 3D selves. I chose not to do that. I said we're going to stay in it. We're going to open our eyes, but we're not energetically leaving 5D. Keep thinking about it. Keep thinking about your 5D so that eventually we will be there. But what has to happen is that this third dimension has to come crashing down. We have to destroy it. Not that has to be the intent. The intent for creating 5D is enough, because all of the RAM and all of the rendering power to the third dimension has to be diverted to the fifth dimension. For you, your experience, remember that your reality, based on physics, based on mathematics, is saying that your reality is created because you're looking at it. You stop looking at it, it stops being rendered. The idea of the program still exists, so when you look back, it's immediately rendered for you again and acts as though it's been there the whole time, because that's what light does. But it's completely, totally not real. It's an illusion. My past, because I am no longer attached to that. I no longer identify with that. I'm more increasingly identifying with my 5D self, with my higher dimensional self, with my Shiva essence. I'm identifying with that more and more. So the obvious result of that is that my history will stop being rendered. It will start to fall apart. And the same is going to be true for you. The same is going to be true for everybody. We're seeing it now. The almighty United States is crumbling. The Western world is crumbling. We're getting ready for a economic collapse. That's just the third dimensional reality collapsing in on itself. The elites are collapsing in on themselves because they represent the third dimension. So can you accept that? Can you accept that all of this is going to come crashing down? Can you change your identity so that your past can be erased? Because in 5D, when I go to my 5D, there is no 3D past. My identity is not associated with that. There is no 3D past when I'm in my 5D reality. When I'm in my higher dimensional Shiva dragon identity, when we're chanting the Huar breath, there's no human 3D past going on in my brain. I am literally erasing my 3D past. When enough people start to do that, this third dimensional reality will cease to exist. Now, those that are choosing to stay here, they'll create a new one. This is the Mandela effect. This is why, for instance, this is why Kennedy's car, they're two, the past is changing. What's changing about Kennedy's car, JFK's car where he was assassinated? I know because I lived through it. I was born. I was actually born a couple of months before Kennedy's assassination. So I lived through it. If you're my age, you were bombarded with the Zapruder film. And you saw that there was only 2 bench seats. There was only 4 people in that car. Now there's 6 bench seats, and there's all this bulletproof stuff that's there, crazy stuff that wasn't there. Well, what's happening is that the people in 3D who, the deep state who's responsible for that, they remember it. Their reality, because they're holding on to this third dimension, they're pulling themselves into a lower 2-dimensional version, which is more militaristic, which is darker, which is even more, has more death and destruction and evil. So what's happening? Their past is being reconstructed. It's being rendered based on their internal experience. So, my version of it, back in the late 60s and 70s, reality wasn't as messed up as it is now. Now that the dark forces are losing their grip on reality, they're working even harder to create this horrific prison world. And so the past is readjusting itself to fit with their intentions and their projections. That's why the Black Tom event, which never happened, is now a historical thing that can be proven. And I guarantee you the Black Tom event never happened. Go look it up. It didn't happen. History is changing itself to mold to the dark intentions of the people who want to stay in control of this third dimension. But this actual 3D that we're in is being deleted. So anyway, I made a list. I didn't get to it. We'll see if there's anything here I want to talk about. I talked about your probability. Mathematics has proven 3D is an illusion. My latest, there is no spoon experience. My incomprehensible role, I've talked about that. Why 3D must be destroyed. Each dimension is a more advanced headset. So this I do want to talk about. So, whoops. So according to this physicist, our reality that we experience, space-time, he calls it a headset. He calls it a rendering. I don't know what the word he used, but he calls it a headset, that we're just experiencing the headset. So everything that's done in science is looking at the program that's being rendered. They're just examining what is in the headset. But his thing is, I want to know what's beyond the headset. And he says, I can't do that because I'm part of the headset. So he's saying as a scientist, as a mathematician, he can't possibly know what's beyond the headset. So this is where people like you and I come in, because we've been outside of the headset. I know what's outside of the headset. He is absolutely right. When he looks at it, tries to figure it out, and then does the math, he comes to the inescapable conclusion. I love it because he says, this isn't something that I wanted to know. He came to the inescapable conclusion that space-time is a rendered false illusion reality. It's a VR headset. And so every experiment you do in space-time, all you're doing is working within a false program. You can't learn about it from within. You have to go outside of it. And he can't go outside of it because he can only use the two-dimensional space-time science, which is just, looking in a mirror talking about itself. But I can tell you, because I've been outside of it. And I'll spend more time talking about dimensions, but we live in the third dimension, but we only experience it from a two-dimensional perspective. Here's the proof of that. Your eyes only see in two dimensions. Your brain can approximate. So I'm looking around my room and I can see depth, I can see height, I can see shadows, I can see things. My brain will say that's about 5 feet away, that's about 3 feet high. I can see that, but it's still just a two-dimensional picture, because my eye, the back of my eye, my retina, is two-dimensional. So I walk around inside the third dimension, but I only experience it from a two-dimensional perspective. We've talked about that. A fourth dimensional being experiences everything in three dimensions. So I can't imagine this. I try to, but their eyes, if you had an eyeball and you were a fourth dimensional being, your eyeball would see in three dimensions. How that is, I don't know. So, I have one iris that points in one direction at all times. They would have an iris here, on top, in back, underneath, and on the side. So, but it would be one iris that would be taking in all of that, not only the light from three dimensions, but also the energy. Because once you get out of the third dimension, light is the only thing that gives us the ability to see. You get in the fourth dimension, there are other things that you can use to be able to experience, which we can't even imagine. But the fourth dimensional being can only experience things in three dimensions, even though they live in four dimensions. So they can move around in four dimensions, but they can only experience things in three dimensions. You get up to the fifth dimension. Fifth dimensional beings would have a fifth dimensional retina. I can't even know what that is. I can barely guess what 4 dimensions is. But they only experience the fifth dimension in 4 dimensions. And it goes up like that everywhere you go. So the point I'm trying to make is that each dimension is just a more complicated virtual reality headset. So you never get out of the headset. So what this guy's talking about, at least so far what I've heard him say, he wants to go beyond the headset. The only thing that's going to happen is you're going to get out of the 3D headset into a 4D headset. And then you're going to want to figure out what's beyond that. And then you're going to get to a 5D headset. Then you're going to want to figure out what's beyond that. You're going to get to a 6D and a 7D. So as I've said before, we get energy from the 6th dimension, but it's actually the flower of life is actually 7 dimensions. I'm not going to get into why I think that is. But I'm still right when I said that the 64 spheres of the flower of life is 6 dimensional. So anyway, that's how powerful the Maoshan practices are, because you are tapping into those 64 spheres, whether you realize it or not. That's why those 5-dimensional Maoshan 5-element spirit fighting moving forms are so powerful, because you are tapping into and channeling 6th-dimensional energies. That's why more and more people are starting to do the Maoshan spirit fighting practices, because we're moving to a higher frequency of the 3rd dimension, which makes people more able to experience it and like it and enjoy it. When as I've been teaching it for the past 35 years, I would say 95% of people who experience it never come back, because it's just too crazy. It's too intense. So the fact that more and more average people are doing it and enjoying it means that we're shifting up to a higher frequency. All right, I'm getting ready to bring this to an end here. So Yeah, why 3D must be destroyed so that we can disengage from our virtual, three-dimensional virtual reality headset. Each dimension is a more advanced headset. There is no God apart from you. The idea of God, a being outside of you that you worship, that you believe created you, is a two-dimensional understanding. I mean, there's nothing more two-dimensional than Jehovah. You shall have no other gods before me. I either love you or I hate you. You have to be perfect or I destroy you. You know, I mean, the 10 Commandments, you must follow the law perfectly or you're a sinner. All sinners must go to hell. You know, this is two-dimensional. Even Jesus' forgiveness. You know, you either believe in him and go to heaven or you don't believe in him and you go to hell. This is two-dimensional. Love and hate, sin and perfection. It's two-dimensional. So that is the version of God in the third dimension. So outside of the third dimension, once you get out of the third dimension, you're in the fourth dimension. So experiencing, just the base experience of the fourth dimension is three-dimensional, which means once you get to the fourth dimension, you go, oh, there isn't just heaven and hell, good or bad. There's a third dimensional experience of, oh, there's a gray, you know, and that's where love and empathy and all of these higher dimensional feelings come from. That's why in the third dimension we can tap into it. But, you know, the fact of the matter is left to ourselves, unless somebody really works on themselves and or, you know, does some spiritual practice, you know, most people are very selfish and very two-dimensional and very destructive. Even love is still contractual. You know, you date one person, you marry them, you know, I can tell you that one person, you know, to one person thing doesn't happen in higher dimensions. So people who, you know, tap into those kinds of relationships, let me be clear. The fact that most of the time when people tap into, you know, multiple partners, they're running away from intimacy. So I'm just going to be clear about that. But at the same time, because I live in more than two dimensions, at the same time, in higher dimensions, there isn't that, you know, when you get there, you'll find out. You know, you'll be able to have multiple partners. You'll be able to be in love with more than one person at the same time. You won't get jealous when the person you love also is in love with somebody else. You know, the higher dimensions you go, that whole one person to one person thing starts coming apart. Anyway, that's going to be something fun we'll deal with when we get to our 5D third dimensional shift. Anyway, I'm going to stop babbling there. If you want to support the channel, please subscribe, like, comment, hit the bell button. Do the live interdimensional meditations as often as possible. Follow and like the Path of the Thunder Wizard on Facebook. Share Thunder Wizard YouTube video links and Facebook posts on all of your social media. Subscribe to the thunderwizard.com Patreon site, please, not just for free. If you subscribe for free, you don't get anything. I don't get anything. You know, subscribe at one of the levels that gets you something. Browse the thunderwizard.com shop and you can try some of the advanced practices. Please remember that I do need your support to keep this channel going. You know, we still live in 3D, and I got to be honest, I don't know how I'm, you know, if something doesn't change financially, I still am okay. Everything seems to work itself out, and I think it will, but it's a lot easier if I know that you guys are there. The subscriptions help because that's an ongoing thing. When you subscribe and you keep you know, subscribing on a monthly basis, I can look at that and I can go, okay, I can pay rent. But I also appreciate whatever support. You can also click on the dollar bill sign in the YouTube video sections, you know, leave your support that way. But the most important thing is to do these live guided interdimensional meditations, because we are destroying. Even though you may not realize it, you may not see the evidence, because remember, this third dimensional video game is going to always find a way to prove what's happening is normal. And that not that you have magical powers. The video game is designed to show that you don't have magical powers, even though you might have completely changed reality. It'll readjust itself, and then people go, "No, you didn't do that. That was always like that." The Mandela effect, perfect example. So keep doing these live guided interdimensional meditations, and do it on your own. Keep focusing on your perfect reality, creating your perfect reality, and we will destroy this third dimension. And there will have to be a new one, which will come. There will have to be a new, higher version of what we call 5D. It's not really 5D. A higher frequency of 3D will have to take its place. That's it, my friends. I wish you all the best. I love you. Please remember, you're the most powerful being that has ever existed. I would not exist if it weren't for you, and thank you so much for creating me. And please remember that you are infinitely lovable and valuable simply because you exist. There's literally nothing you can do that will make you more valuable than you already are. I wish you all the best. Please take very good care of yourselves. I love you all, and I will see you all tomorrow. We've got another live stream. I'll see you tomorrow at 8:30. Take very good care of yourselves.